Welcome to the With You Rugby Podcast, designed to give you an in-depth look at the United States Rugby Foundation, including our grant programs and recipients, fundraisers, events, and much more. Now let's get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Vizard, President of the United States Rugby Foundation, and I want to welcome you to another of our With You Rugby Podcast. And as we get closer to our 2023 US Rugby Hall of Fame induction ceremony, scheduled for Salt Lake City on Saturday, September 16th, we thought it'd be nice to get to know this year's Hall of Fame inductees and special award recipients just a little bit better. And today we have former coach at Towson State, Loyola College, and the US Naval Academy, and a 2023 US Rugby Hall of Fame inductee, Mike Flanagan. Welcome, Mike. Thanks for taking the time today.
Brian, it's no problem. I'm happy to do it. And thank you for the honor.
And where are we talking to you from today? Are you at home?
Yes, I'm at home. This is my COVID teaching platform.
Okay.
So you see on the back, I got my the painting, a couple of rugby things, and this is like my. It's not a cave; it's more like a man treehouse.
Okay, very good. And Mike, as we do with all our special honorees, we want to get to know them a little bit better. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you grew up, and what sports you played as a kid.
I grew up in a little town in Western Mass, Pittsfield, Mass. My dad, I was born there, and we moved to California. We were sort of like the hillbillies, I suppose. I was there for a couple of years, and then we moved back to Pittsfield. My mom missed her family, and I went to elementary school, middle school, high school. Didn't play a lot of sports in high school. I was a rec league guy. I had a bunch of buddies. We were forever in the parks and rec, summer leagues, all that kind of stuff. So that's what we did most of.
And how'd you get introduced to the sport of rugby?
Yeah, a couple different ways, quite frankly. And I think about this one. When I was in the Navy, I would travel through officers' country to get to the flight deck because I worked up on Fly One, launch and recover an aircraft. And on my pathway through, I would pass this door. And on the door, there was a bumper sticker that said, "It takes leather balls to play rugby." And I thought, wow, that's a cool bumper sticker. If I ever get out of the Navy, I might try that game sometime. Well, fast forward, it turns out that leather balls rugby then became Godak rugby. I mean, all those, it was a bit of foreshadowing, I think, in my early life.
Yeah, I had one of those bumper stickers on my old Chevelle. I love that bumper sticker. Yeah.
That was great.
Hey,
But
Mike, go ahead.
sorry.
I'm sorry. No, you go.
After I got out of the Navy, I went to college. I wrestled a bit at Towson. And when I finished wrestling, I was in the University Union, and one of the guys who wrestled with me, his name's Tim Chestnut. Tim said, "Mike, you should come play rugby. You'll drink more beer than you ever drank in your life." I said, "Tim, I was in the Navy for 4 years. I already done that.
Right.
I want to play a sport. I want to have fun." Then he said, you play the game, you'll have more fun than you ever had in your life. And he was 100% right. First practice I went to, we called it 501 and 502, which is the All Blacks Barbarians game from 1970.
Oh, sure. We all saw that, right.
That was it. When I saw that, I'm like, whoa, this game is fun. I'm going to enjoy this ride. And it's still going.
And we're going to talk about your coaching mainly here, but what position did you play as a player?
I played prop on lock, mostly prop, 1 and 3.
Okay. Well, let's talk about your coaching. It wasn't long before you got into coaching rugby. Tell us how you went from player to coach.
I started with the Towson State women as it's kind of an anomaly there, I suppose. We used to be when we were still at Towson, one of the guys had to go coach the women. That they didn't have to, but that was like a volunteer thing. And I was married at the time. I had a small child, but my oldest son Patrick was just 1. And I graduated from Towson in 79. So this is 4 or 5 years later. I was an older student, so I was 28, 29 already when I started this gig. And it just seemed like, okay, maybe I'll go coach the women. The guy who taught me how to play, Craig Dopkin, who was the father at Towson, he said, we need a guy to come coach. So I said, Craig, I'll come and help you. Well, he handed the reins over to me. He just said, go. All right, Mike, if you're going to do it here, you can do it all by yourself. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. What are you, crazy? And so anyhow, I started with those guys. And I remember one of them, Leo, came up to me, little girl Leo. She says, Mike, you're the first coach we've ever had. We're actually doing rugby drills under you. I'm like, oh, I guess that's a compliment. I guess I'm having an impact on these ladies. I don't know. So
did you enjoy your time with the Towson State women's team?
I did. It was the first year they went 0-4-4. And when I questioned them about it, they said, well, you know, we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I said, what about my feelings? You guys didn't win a game. So the next season, it was a spring and a fall, they went 4-4-4. And then they said, are you happy now? I'm like, I'm ecstatic, ladies.
So you had a coaching stint then at Loyola College, and then you embarked on a 27-year career at the US Naval Academy. How did that opportunity at the Naval Academy come about?
It was very much by chance. I had left. I was teaching for the Archdiocese. I left there. I was down at Indian Creek School, which is outside of Annapolis, down here in Anne Arundel County. And I was also coaching some all-star teams. And I just got tired. I mean, I was doing everything in the brother with Loyola, and I just got worn out. I'm like, you know, I can't do it all the time. It's 40 hours a week there, and another, you know, travel to practice at weekends. I had a small kid. I wanted to do something different. Well, because I was so proximal to Navy, I ran into Pat Lean, who was at the time the head coach. And I said, listen, if you want me to, I'll come and do some scrum work with you, but that's all I want to do. I don't want any responsibility. I don't want to do any of that stuff. Please, if take it to your players and see if that's something they would like. If it's okay with them, you know, because you know, you can just go charging in on somebody else's turf and you make somebody angry, and before you know it, there's cliques that show up, and he likes him and he doesn't like him, and I don't want any part of that. You know, I just want a nice, easy go coach a little scrummaging and have fun. So it turns out a couple of the guys had played for me on the all-star team, and they were like, yeah, let's get that guy over here. Well, fast forward, it wasn't that long, Brian, maybe 6 weeks. And Bush, I want to say Bush Sr. wanted to kick Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait. So Pat was a Tomcat pilot, and he got recalled back to a squadron. He was doing something at the academy. To this day, I'm not 100% sure what. And he got called back to go fly jets. And he called me and said, I got to go. Like, what do you mean you got to go? You got to take the team. Once again, what do you mean I got to take the team? I don't, because, you know, I'm here 6 weeks. These guys don't want to listen to me. And he said, Mike, you're the only one they will listen to. The other two coaches, they don't like. And you know, it was just one of those things, a perfect storm sort of. And I said, all right, Patrick, I'll do it. But how long are you going to be deployed for? He goes, I don't know, 10 months. So when you come off deployment, you're going to go back and be the head coach again. Okay. But I'll take it till you come back. Well, you know, I tell people, well, he never came back. Well, he moved to Norfolk. He didn't get shot down. Nothing happened to him. His son graduated from the academy 2 years ago. I mean, Pat's had a great life. He's a good guy. I see him about every time. And I'm like, Patrick, I keep waiting for you to pick the reins again. Come on, man. You know, I'm going to this job for you.
That's good. Well, you had great success. You had great success. So you had an 80% win rate. What do you attribute to that success you had with that win rate and achieving 17 national collegiate and varsity cup semifinal appearances?
I give all that credit to the players. I was really blessed, Brian, to coach some really, really dedicated and committed young men. They worked incredibly hard for all those years. And it was because the academy, and I think this maybe contributes to the uniqueness of that place. You have a senior class that achieves X, and the junior class are watching them achieve X. And if they don't get to the Y that they think they need to get to, then that junior class says, okay, those guys didn't get as far as they need to go. We're going to be better. And for all those years, every junior class came in and stepped up and said, we're going to be better. We're going to be better than the firsties. Juniors are commonly referred to as second class. When second class becomes a first class, now it's their turn, and we're going to show you how much better we can be. And that attitude prevailed for many, many, many of those years. And then we had some continued success in terms of getting into the playoffs and getting to the 16, into the 8, into the 4. And then I'd fight Cal or BYU, and then it was like, you know, it was David and Goliath every time. So, but certainly the journey was great, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
There had to be some good coaching in there, Mike. You developed 47 All-Americans. I mean, what was it like? You just touched on a little bit, these fantastic young men, but 47 All-Americans, those are some pretty special kids to be playing. And again, you had something to do with their development.
Well, it's you can't make chicken soup out of chicken manure. I mean, I hate to say it. Yeah, I mean, there's some pretty good athletes that come here, and this is a special place, and I have a lot of love for it. But every kid who walks through the door has been vetted and then vetted again and then vetted again. And he brings all those young men and young women, brings them to the table. There's all of them have a degree of athleticism. All of them are incredibly smart. All of them have some personality. They have all the tools. So I tell people all the time, Brad, that every guy that ever played for me was smarter than me. I only knew one thing more than them, and that was a little bit about rugby. And if I could transition some of that to them, then we could be pretty good. And they were apt students. They wanted to learn. They wanted to be better. And we didn't. If you watch our team play, we weren't real fancy, but we knew how to get across the game line.
Mm-hmm. Now, fellow Hall of Famer, the late John Prusmack, had a huge impact on the sport here in the U.S. Tell us about the Prusmack Rugby Center at the Naval Academy and your involvement in getting that center created.
I would say it was the early 2000s when the initiative started. And this was something by the athletic director. And we had some alums who were pushing, like John was pushing. Army was doing some good things. They built the Anderson Complex, which is a fantastic place. They wanted something like that at Navy. Prusmack was pushing for that. The AD was listening because John was willing to fund some of it. He got a couple of his buddies involved with this project. It was Ernie Blake, who was a USOC guy, and Sam Marone, whose son played for me. I was 05 grad. And the three of them, in conjunction with General Carlton Fulford, who was the Marine 3-star at the time, we had just enough political weight and just enough economic weight to make it viable. I know that the athletic director said, we're going to build this complex and we're going to put golf there. We're going to put hockey there. We're going to put tennis there. And if you want a piece of this property, then you got to buy your way in. And he gave a number, and I thought it was pretty high. But he said, you got X amount of weeks to come up with a significant amount of that so we can figure you guys in. And literally in less than 2 weeks, they went back with a check for the full amount and said, okay, we're in. And God bless the alumni. They said, we want to do this. Now, the construction took a while because it wasn't completed. We didn't get to play on it until 2014. They started construction in 11 or 12. I think I've got some photos of that stuff, and it was finally done. And obviously, John was still around. And, he came down, and Ernie and Sam, and I think it's one of the finest collegiate complexes in the nation. 3 full-size fields, stands. The next generation is for lights. But they need a little bit better Wi-Fi in the joint, though. But other than that, it's quite an accomplishment to have that kind of a rugby facility at the Naval Academy.
That's great. Now, when you were coaching, did the Navy team go on many tours abroad?
Oh, absolutely. We tried to tour every other year. We probably went to Ireland 4 times. We did Spain and France once. We've done Wales and England twice. We played the BRNC, British Royal Naval College, at Dartmouth. We were there centenary. It was kind of a cool trip. It was only 5 days, but we played 2 games. But the Academy okayed for my guys to miss class to fly to Dartmouth to play there. It was their centenary, their 150th anniversary. You'd think it had been around longer, but the building hadn't been around that long. The Navy had been around longer, but the building, that was the centenary of that. And on top of that, we won the game. So they have this really wonderful portrait of the parade ground at Dartmouth that they were going to give to themselves. And they had to give it to me. So now it hangs in my hallway over here.
Did you have a favorite of those tours?
My favorite? Maybe South Africa. We went to Australia. We went to South Africa. I've been to South Africa twice. I think South Africa was my favorite tour.
All right.
that was something. I got a call from a midshipman in the middle of summer. I don't know. I want to say I got a year escapes me. And he goes, "Hey, coach, how'd you like to take your team to South Africa?" I'm like, "Who is this?" So I'm midshipman so-and-so. I'm at the Pentagon. I said, "This is a joke." So I hung up the phone. And, I'm like, "There's no way. They're not calling me." So the kid calls me back and says, "Coach, don't hang up. Please call this number." And so I'm like, "Okay." So it's 703. It's Pentagon, Northern Virginia. I'm like, "All right, let's see what happens." So I called it up. And they sent me to he was a Marine, or I'm sorry, he was an Air Force Colonel, Bob Madison, maybe. My name escapes for a little bit. But he was the head of OSD, which is the Office of Strategic Defense. And they wanted to do a mill-to-mill tour to send the Naval Academy to South Africa to represent the U.S. And we're going to play their military sides. They wanted to create a dialogue. And I met him again. I saw Bob again in Cape Town. We had just finished playing their Navy, their real Navy. And then he said that was as close as they ever got to some kind of a military agreement. If you think back, the ANC was more aligned with our Eastern European foes right now than it was the United States. We chose a different tack, but it was a hell of a tour. We had a blast. Young men had a great time. And our alumni put a lot of money at it, and we represented the Naval Academy very well.
Nice. Now, of all your rugby memories, is there one that stands above the rest?
Oh, God. I don't know. When I think about all these things, I get waves. It's like one thing kind of leads to another. I think my first trip to the Final Four. We had every year when I started 91, 92, we went so far. 93 went a little further. 94, we went all the way to the final, and that was real special to know that we were going to go play, for national championship. We were going to get into the four, and then maybe after that, my second favorite is my 99 team. That was a team that I'm pretty sure didn't have any business getting to the Final Four, and they were just sheer will with Ben Oakes and Jeremy Graysick and Pat O'Mahony. They were just bound and determined. There was nothing going to stop them, and they got there. It was a heck of a journey for those young men. So it was a lot of fun to coach that team.
Cool. Now, looking back on your rugby career, what are you most proud of?
Oh man, I think about, me personally. I'm proud to have known those guys. I think I'm more proud of, and I'm going to steal a quote here from a guy named John Wooden who coached basketball at UCLA for many years. A pretty good record, young man.
Right.
And he said, "It's not what you do when you're with me that counts. It's what you do when you leave." And when I see what these young men have accomplished upon graduation, the jobs they hold, whether they stay in the military or they go into business, they're ultimately successful no matter where they go. One of our guys is head of the largest healthcare company in Canada. Another one of our guys does a nonprofit that works on ending extreme poverty and stopping terrorism in Africa by ending extreme poverty to making self-sustainable villages. And he's boots on the ground. He was in the fields planting crops with these natives, showing them how that they can create a sustainable economy and get away from the terrorists. And so we don't have to fight more people than we have to. I guess that's what I'm most proud of, the men like that, the skippers of squadrons and the guys that command ships and lead us. They're just, I'm really proud to know them. I'm not sure I'm responsible for them, but I like to think I got a sliver of that pizza,
Mm-hmm. One final question, Mike. What does it mean to you being selected as one of this year's Hall of Fame inductees?
Somebody asked me that a couple days ago, and I'm still like, I'm not sure I deserve it. I don't know I do enough? I look at all the world of the world of rugby, and the guys that I know, the guys that I'm, and I see so many guys doing so much more. Then I see the guys who are in the Hall of Fame, guys like yourself and Jack and Tom and David, and I look and go, God, it's, I'm gonna go, stand in a dais at some point with them, and I'm gonna be in the same club. But I don't know if I deserve that club. It's pretty humbling. I'll be honest with you. I was just shocked when you called, and my wife was in tears. She was so happy for me. So I'm still, don't know if I'm still quite convinced it's there yet. Things like this make it more real for me, to be honest.
Oh, it's there, Mike. It's a well-deserved honor, and it's there. And I'm looking forward to congratulate you in person in Salt Lake City.
I'm excited to get out there. We're planning a nice trip. My sister's going to come, and she's all excited. Oh God, I don't know what I'm going to do with her, but it's going to be.
I can't wait to meet her too. Sounds like fun.
Oh, it's going to be a blast. My wife is very excited. So
good. Well, Mike, congratulations once again, and thank you for on behalf of the US Rugby Foundation for spending your time with us today.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I'm glad to accommodate in any way I can. This is, I'm still a little taken back by the whole thing, but just know that whatever you need. We'll see
you soon, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, you will. Thanks, Brian.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for this edition of our With You Rugby podcast. Please stick around for more of these as we get closer to our U.S. Rugby Hall of Fame induction ceremony slated for Salt Lake City on Saturday, September 16th. Until next time, stay safe, everyone.